recording, and let's start the prayers. Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांतिः। ओम भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येम अक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति न बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। ओम शांति शांति शांति। Okay, now we have to chant the second khanda. Tanmay, could you start that?
Om Acharya, yes. अथ तृतीय मुंडके द्वितीय खंडः
अथ तृतीय मुंडके द्वितीय खंडः
सवेदैतत्परमं ब्रह्मधाम
सवेदैतत्परमं ब्रह्मधाम
यत्र विश्वन्निहितं भाति शुभ्रम्
यत्र विश्वं निहितं भाति शुभ्रम्
उपासते पुरुषं ये ह्यकामाः
उपासते पुरुषं ये कामाः
ते शुक्रम् एतद् अतिवर्तन्ति धीराः
ते शुक्रमेतद् अतिवर्तन्ति धीराः
कामान्यः कामयते मन्यमानः
कामान्यः कामयते मन्यमानः
स कामभिर्जायते तत्र तत्र
स कामभिर्जायते तत्र तत्र
पर्याप्तकामस्य कृतात्मनस्तु
पर्याप्तकामस्य कृतात्मनस्तु
इहैव सर्वे प्रविलीयन्ति कामाः
इहे सर्वे प्रविलीयन्ति कामाः
नायमात्मा प्रवचनेन लभ्यः
नायमात्मा प्रवचनेन लभ्यः
न मेधया न बहुना श्रुतेन
न मेधया न बहुना श्रुतेन
यमे वैश वृणुते तेन लभ्यः
यमेवैष वृणुते तेन लभ्यः
तस्यैष आत्मा विवृणुते तनुं स्वाम्
अस्येष आत्मा विवृणुते तनुं स्वाम्
नायम् आत्मा बलहीनेन लभ्यः
नायमात्मा बलहीनेन लभ्यः
न च प्रमादात् तपसो वाप्यलिङ्गात्
न च प्रमादात् वाप्यलिङ्गात्
एतैरुपायैर्यतते यस्तु विद्वान्
एतैरुपायैर्यतते यस्तु विद्वान्
तस्यैष आत्मा विशते ब्रह्मधाम
तस्यैष आत्मा विशते ब्रह्मधाम
सम्प्राप्यैनं ऋषयो ज्ञानतृप्ताः
सम्प्राप्यैनं ऋषयो ज्ञानतृप्ताः
कृतात्मानो वीतरागाः प्रशान्ताः
कृतात्मानो वीतरागा प्रशान्तः
ते सर्वगं सर्वतः प्राप्य धीराः
ते सर्वगं सर्वतः प्राप्य धीराः
युक्त आत्मानः सर्वमेवाविशन्ति
युक्तात्मानः सर्वमेवाविशन्ति
वेदांत विज्ञान असुनिश्चितार्थाः
वेदांत विज्ञान सुनिश्चितार्थाः
संन्यास योगाद्यतयः शुद्ध सत्वाः
संन्यास योगाद्यतयः शुद्ध सत्वाः
ते ब्रह्मलोकेषु परान्तकाले
ते ब्रह्मलोकेषु परान्तकाले
परामृताः परिमुच्यन्ति सर्वे
परामृता परिमुच्यन्ति सर्वे
गताः कलाः पञ्चदश प्रतिष्ठाः
गता कला पञ्चदश प्रतिष्ठाः
देवाश्च सर्वे प्रतिदेवतासु
देवाश्च सर्वे प्रतिदेवतासु
कर्माणि विज्ञानमयश्च आत्मा
कर्माणि विज्ञानमयश्च आत्मा
परे व्यये सर्व एकी भवन्ति
परे व्यये भवन्ति
यथा नद्यः सन्दमानाः समुद्रे
यथा नद्यस्यन्दमानः समुद्रे
अस्तं गच्छन्ति नाम रूपे विहाय
अस्तं गच्छन्ति नाम रूपे विहाय
तथा विद्वान् नाम रूपाद् विमुक्तः
तथा विद्वान् नाम रूपाद् मुक्तः
परात् परं पुरुषम् उपैति दिव्यम्
परात् परं पुरुषमुपैति दिव्यम्
स यो ह वै तत्परमं ब्रह्म वेद
स यो ह वै तत्परमं ब्रह्म वेद
ब्रह्मैव भवति नास्य ब्रह्मवित् कुले भवति
ब्रह्मैव भवति नास्य ब्रह्मवित् कुले भवति
तरति शोकं तरति पाप्मानं
तरति शोकं तरति पाप्मानम्
गुहाग्रन्थिभ्यो विमुक्तो मृतो भवति
गुह्याग्रन्थिभ्यो विमुक्तो भवति
तत् एतद् ऋचाभ्युक्तम्
ततेतदृचाभ्युक्तम्
क्रियावन्तः श्रोत्रिया ब्रह्मनिष्ठाः
क्रियावन्तः श्रोत्रिया ब्रह्मनिष्ठाः
स्वयं जुह्वत एकर्षिं श्रद्धयन्तः
स्वयं जुह्वत एकर्षिं श्रद्धयन्तः
तेषाम् एवैतां ब्रह्मविद्यां वदेत
तेषाम् एवैतां ब्रह्मविद्यां वदेत
शिरोव्रतं विधिवद्यैस्तु चीर्णम्
शिरोव्रतं विधिवद्यैस्तु चीर्णम्
तदेतत् सत्यं ऋषिरङ्गिराः पुरोवाच
तदेतत् सत्यं ऋषिरङ्गिरा पुरोवाच
नैतद् अचीर्णव्रतो धीते
नैतदचीर्णव्रतो धीते
नमः परमऋषिभ्यो नमः परमऋषिभ्यः
नमः परमऋषिभ्यो नमः परमऋषिभ्यः
नमः परमऋषिभ्यो नमः परमऋषिभ्यः
नमः परमऋषिभ्यो नमः परमऋषिभ्यः
इति मुण्डकोपनिषदं सम्पूर्णम्
इति मुण्डकोपनिषदं सम्पूर्णम् Thank you, Tanmay.
Thank you, Acharya.
Okay, so we are on the fourth mantra of this khanda, which goes Nayam Atma Balahine na labhyah nacha pramadat tapaso va api alingat aiter upayer yatate yastu vidvan tasya yesha atma Vishate Brahmadhama. So you look at the words Ayam Atma. So that Nayam Atma is Ayam Atma, and there's a na there. So Ayam Atma na labhyaha. This Atma is not gained. How? Balahinena. Balahinena is a person who is weak, who has no strength. Balahinam, without strength. Nor na pramadatcha. It cannot be gained by a person who is negligent also, who is not alert. Tapasava api, you have to supply na labhyaha. It cannot be obtained through tapas. So what that means we'll come to later. Alingat. Alingat here is should be taken as without sannyasa. So lingam is an indicator. Shankaracharya takes it as indicator of sannyasa. So alingat. Then tu. The tu comes in the third line. Tu. Yeah. But however, Esha Atma, fourth line, tu Esha Atma, Yaha Tasya, of that person, Yaha Vidwan. Yaha Vidwan is from the Yas tu, breaks into Yaha plus tu. So Yaha Vidwan, a person who is got Viveka, who is a Vidwan, who is full of knowledge, who is a qualified seeker, and Yatate. Not only is he qualified seeker, he also is making the necessary effort. And also, etaihi upayehi. He has these qualifications also. What happens to him? Vishate Brahmadhamaha. He attains Brahmadhama, which is Brahman nature he gets. A complete sloka in itself. A complete mantra. And what is being given is the sadhana, the discipline for Atma Praptihi, for getting moksha. And the first qualification, the primary sadhana is what? Choosing the Atma, we saw in the previous mantra. And here he adds supportive sadhanas. So the sadhanas are in this mantra itself. You can see the four words. Balam. So he says balam, balahinena. Without balam, without strength, you cannot have. So here we have to take the positive part of it. Balam, spiritual strength he has to have. Then apramadaha. So pramada is laziness or lack of alertness. So apramadaha means being alert. And tapas. Tapas here is not, the tapas which we normally think of. This is spiritual knowledge. So Shankara says here, tapas is equal to jnanam, and lingam here is to be taken as indicator of sannyasa. So now look at the words. Nayam atma balahinena labhyaha. The atma cannot be obtained by a person who is lacking spiritual strength. So balahinam here has to be taken as, if you refer it to the Bhagavad Gita, all the Daivi Sampattihi, all those qualities which are called Daivi Sampattihi in the Bhagavad Gita, we have to take it as the Balam over here, the spiritual strength, the necessary qualities. And Shankara says, Hinena, Balahinena is to be taken as Bala Prahinena. So Prahinam means absence. So lacking spiritual strength means absence of those necessary qualities. What are the qualities? That inner strength which comes when I make the choice to get into jnanam, to know my own nature, to know Atma. So the mental strength which is generated through the teaching. As all of you all know by now, you have been in this teaching for more than 5 years. The amount of mental resilience which you get as the teaching is going on, as it is being assimilated, the mind is being strengthened. So the amount of mental strength that I get, that is what is being referred to here, not any physical strength. And therefore, with this mental strength, with that quietude of mind which is obtained through the necessary sadhana of meditation and Shravanam and Mananam, this knowledge becomes firm. This knowledge becomes unshakable. No more doubts will remain in my mind. And therefore, when doubts are not there, emotional disturbances are not there. This mental strength is pointed out as the basis of a low FIR, of a mind which does not get disturbed very easily. Then pramadat. Pramadat means the one who has not got laziness, who is alert. So here he is saying that the one who is alert will not get moksha. And Shankara gives a peculiar interpretation to this pramada. Pramada normally means laziness. So he says he uses the words laukika putra pashvadi vishaya sangha nimittaha, which means this pramada is the cause for attachment to various things, various objects like putra, pushpa, that is your sons, and pashva, cattle, vishaya, adi, objects. So worldly objects, if you have an attachment for, that Shankara describes as pramada. So he says a person who is not unattached, who is not dispassionate, it's a very big negative for him. So this apramada has to be taken as alertness. How do you interpret Shankara's words that attachment to sons, cattle, objects? Remember that all these are in the nature of thoughts. And we saw in Bhagavad Gita that there are many thoughts which come without invitation. They are because of the nature of your mind, because of the guna mix with which your mind is born. Some thoughts are uninvited. They are natural to you. Okay. And therefore, thoughts of putra, that is sons, cattle, objects, these are all natural to you. Thoughts of pleasure are natural to you. Sense pleasures are natural to you. And that is why apramada. Apramada means the alertness. As all these negative thoughts come, as viparita thoughts come, I have to consciously reject them. And therefore, I have to be constantly watching the entry of thoughts which are not conducive to my spiritual effort. The seeker has to constantly watch that. And if I'm watching that, that is apramadaha, the alertness. I have to watch the thoughts come. I have to consciously reject any thought which is in this nature of causing attachment, because attachment will only take me away from moksha. Therefore, I have to constantly reject them, constantly watch them, constantly reject these kind of thoughts. The focus has to be only on moksha. Then he uses the word tapasa va apilingat. So tapasaha. So tapasa here means a committed pursuit of knowledge. Shankara says very clearly, Shankara says that this tapasa is not austerity in general, but the exclusion of all activity excepting the pursuit of knowledge. A tapasa in that sense. There is only one thing that I am pursuing, that is knowledge. And this tapas, therefore, is in the form of Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam. What am I doing in this tapas? I am constantly going over those 5, points, the 5 capsules of Vedanta, which we have captured many times in our earlier classes. What are they? I am in the nature of eternal and all-pervading consciousness. Number 1. Number 2 is I am the only source of permanent peace, security, and happiness. Notice here that earlier we said Atma is in the nature of eternal and all-pervading consciousness. Now we are replacing the Atma with I. I am in the nature of eternal, all-pervading consciousness. I am the only source of permanent peace, security, and happiness. By my mere presence, I give life to the material body, this material body, and through this material body, I interact and experience the material universe. I am the Atma. I am not affected by whatever happens in this material world, or for that matter, in this material body. And if I forget this real nature of mine, I convert my life into a big burden. When I'm constantly remembering this real nature of mine, my life becomes a leela, a entertainment. Remember that whenever the teaching is present in my mind in the form of an active contemplation on the teaching, life will be enjoyable. The moment life begins to appear as a burden, this is the warning that Shastra is giving me. When life appears as a burden, it's a warning that I am forgetting the teaching, that I am no longer in touch with the teaching. So this is what is meant by tapaha over here. And then alingat. So alingat, lingam is an indicator by which one understands something, right? So here Shankara says lingam is sannyasa. So a natural question should come. How can Shankara say that sannyasa is compulsory for jnanam? Because there are many grahastha jnanis, many householder jnanis whose names appear in the scriptures. In the Gita itself, for example, there is the name. Whose name appears in the Gita?
Kapila Muni.
Janaka.
Janaka, right? So Krishna specifically says grahasthas like Janaka have got moksha, even while doing their own duties as a king. So when Shastra itself, the saying Bhagavad Gita itself, and of course in the other Shastram also you will find that there are many grahastha jnanis. How can Shankara say? Shankara doesn't explain, okay? So Shankara sometimes doesn't explain, and when his explanation is not there in the Bhagavad Gita or in the Upanishads, we have to look at the sub-commentators. So there is a very famous commentator called Anandagiri. And the sub-commentary on a bhashyam, what is it called? A sub-commentary on a bhashyam. What is a bhashyam? Bhashyam is a commentary on a mulam, on a basic work. Beg your pardon?
Call it Tika.
Tika. So Anandagiri has a Tika on the Mundaka Upanishad. There he says that when Shankara says sannyasa here, don't take it as literal sannyasa, wearing the orange robes and saffron robes and all that. The word sannyasa here means to antara sannyasa, internal sannyasa, which is what? Renunciation of all identification, renunciation of all worries, and renunciation of all special prayers. So three things he says are antara sannyasa: sarva abhimana tyaga, sarva chinta tyaga, sarva vishesha prarthana tyaga. Sarva abhimana tyaga means what? You have to renounce your renunciation with the world and with the body and with your family. That identification has to be renounced, at least mentally. One doesn't have to go and tell them, I've renounced you. That you need not do, but mentally at least that attitude should be there. Then sarva chinta tyaga. All worries you have to renounce. That is internal sannyasa. And the third one is a very special one. Sarva vishesha prarthana tyaga. Special prayers. Special prayers for myself. If I am sick, if I am ill, going to the Lord and saying, please, save me from this illness. Special prayers for your family, all this. Wherever you are in trouble, do you run to the Lord or not? If you run to the Lord, then there was a name used in the Bhagavad Gita of such a person. What was that?
Artharthi.
Artharthi. So Artharthi should not be. Artharthi cannot be a jnani. And therefore the special prayers you have to renounce. He says very specifically, Sarva Vishesha Prarthana, special prayers only because the jnani still prays for the world in general. Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha is the prayer of a jnani only. But he's praying for the whole world. And if it is any comfort, when you pray for the whole world, your family is also included. You need not pray separately. So this is the lingam, the indicator of sannyasa or mumukshutvam in this case. According to Anandagiri, it is the indicator of tivra mumukshutvam, very, very, pointed seeker, a seeker who is extremely committed, exclusive pursuit, complete commitment. This is what is called by sannyasa. Antara sannyasa. It's not physical renunciation, it is mental renunciation. And in this mental mindset, the primary factor is that mumukshutvam alone is my first and only objective. Moksha alone is my only objective. Everything else is subsidiary. I am willing to sacrifice everything else for moksha. And therefore, as a test for this mumukshutvam alone, sannyasa is being mentioned. Because sannyasis are known to renounce everything. And by using the word sannyasa here, Anandagiri says that, Shankara is saying that you have to have the same renunciation which a sannyasi has. You need not physically renounce. So alingat. Without that internal renunciation, atman labhyaha, there is no question of getting moksha at all. So linga is a sannyasa. Sannyasa basically is a declaration to the world that I am not a competitor to anybody, that I am not interested in worldly society. And therefore in Gita it was said that the jnani, the sannyasi, does not trouble the world, and of course is not troubled by the world. This is the meaning of lingam, alingat, the one who is not an internal sannyasi. Then etair upaye yatate to vidvan. So yaha vidvan, that wise seeker, that wise sadhaka, etaihi upayehi yatate. They make the effort with these qualifications. Upaya here means qualifications. Remember, upaya can mean solution also, remedy also, but here it means qualifications. So yataha etaihi upayehi yatate. That seeker, yaha vidvan, he makes the necessary effort and he is possessing these 4 qualifications. What 4 qualifications are there? Balam, apramada, sannyasa, and jnana. So upaya is taken as the means, and normally when we say means, there will always be 2. There will be the primary sadhana, which is tapaha over here, jnanam, that is shravanam, mananam, nididhyasanam. That is the primary sadhana. All the other 3, balam, apramada, sannyasa, they are all supporting means only, secondary means only. Of course, without the secondary means, the primary will not work. And therefore, whenever we use the term sadhana, we need to mention whether it is primary or secondary. But when we use the term upaya, it covers both primary and secondary. And that's why he uses the word upaya over here. Both the sadhanas, primary and secondary, are converted. For every activity in my life, I can convert into an upaya, providing I approach it with the right attitude. Yatate is making an effort. Okay. So the summary of this is the one who has chosen the Atma and makes an appropriate effort with the right qualifications. He is the Vidwan. He is the Jnani. Okay. A question should come up. What is that question? This Vidwan is the Jnani. What is the necessity for a Jnani to put in any effort? It is against the very definition of a Jnani. Right? The answer is very interesting. So he says, Shankara says that this Jnani's knowledge, Jnani's Vidya, Jnanam, is Paroksha Jnanam. So the concept of Paroksha Jnanam and Aparoksha Jnanam is there. What is Paroksha Jnanam? Something which I have heard of. What is aparoksha jnanam? Something which I know directly. So usually aparoksha jnanam is defined as something which is experienced directly. But we should not use the word experience because there can be no experience of Brahman. And therefore, paroksha jnanam, for understanding purposes, we use the example of experience. For example, let us say there's a person who has never eaten a jackfruit in his life, right? Jackfruit found in the South India. He has never eaten jackfruit in his life. And his friend tells him that this jackfruit looks like this and tastes like this. He gives him a description of the taste. So this is paroksha jnanam because he knows only from another source. When he actually eats the jackfruit, that paroksha jnanam is converted into a paroksha jnanam. He has directly understood what that taste is. So dropping the experience part of it, the jnanis, this jnani here, remember, he is not the jnani who is jnananishtha. He is a seeker. And therefore he has not got moksha as yet. So his knowledge is paroksha jnana. Paroksha jnana means what? He knows that Brahman exists. He knows about the existence of Brahman. So in Sanskrit, Brahma asti. Brahman is there. He knows that. He has that knowledge. Why is this knowledge necessary for a seeker? Why is the knowledge of Brahma asti necessary for a seeker?
One pursues a thing when one has the knowledge. So if he knows Brahma Asti, then only he can pursue that particular knowledge. That's all.
Little bit more expansion.
So I'll
That is
contemplate being
intellectual-
Brahman only when I know about it. So
Yes.
go ahead.
You can inquire into an object only if you know about such an object. Right? So partial knowledge is necessary. You cannot inquire into something about which you know nothing. But if you know that Brahman exists, it's a partially known Brahman. You have not got full knowledge. So that paroksha jnanam, which you heard from somebody, that will enable you to inquire. And that paroksha jnanam is Brahma asti, Brahman is. After inquiry, it becomes aparoksha jnanam, which is what? If paroksha jnanam is Brahma asti, what is aparoksha jnanam?
Aham Brahmasmi.
Aham Brahmasmi.
Brahma asmi. So the journey from Brahma asti to Brahma asmi, that is what he's talking about. Okay. Okay. Then he says, Tasya, for that person, Esha Atma, this Jivatma, what happens? Vishate Brahmadhama. That Jivatma. So here the Atma is not Satchidananda Atma, he is a seeker. For this person, who is the Jivatma? Brahmadhama Vishate, he enters into the Paramatma. Vishate is entering, he enters into the Paramatma. So this Jivatma, having got this knowledge, he enters into the Paramatma. Again, Shankara doesn't comment upon the word Brahmadhama. Brahmadhama has to be taken not as the abode, it has to be taken as Brahma Swarupam. Why should it not be taken as the abode? Dhama normally means residence or abode. Why should it not be taken as abode? Because when you enter an abode, there is duality. The difference between you and the residence. So Shankara doesn't comment, but we have to understand it as Brahma Swarupa, the best meaning. So this Jivatma discovers that he is Paramatma only. There is, of course, no question of any physical entry. This entry, this Vishate, or this merger, whatever you want to call it, it consists of dropping the idea that I am a Jiva different from the Paramatma. So that is the text of this verse, a very, very important verse. talks very beautifully about the journey. Okay. Now we look at mantra number 5. And if you look at the mantra, Samprapyainam Mrashayo Jnana Triptaha Kritat Manaha Vitaragaha Prashantaha Te Sarvagam Sarvatah Prapya Dhiraha Yuktatmanaha Sarvam Eva Vishanti. Samprapya Enam. The first word you break into Samprapya, Enam, and Rishayaha. 3 words. So Enam Samprapya, having attained this. This Enam here refers to Brahman, Atma. Having attained this Brahman, Rishayaha, all the rishis, the sages, what happens to them? Jnana Triptaha. They are satisfied with the knowledge. And Kritat Manaha. Kritat Manaha means having transformed themselves into what? Vitaragaha. They have become free from attachment. Vitaraga, free from attachment. Prashantaha. They are totally tranquil, at peace with themselves. And Sarvataha Prapya. Having totally attained Sarvagam. Sarvagam is that which is all pervading. So Sarvagam here means Brahman itself. Te Sarvagam Sarvataha Prapya. Having totally attained that Brahman. Te Yuktatmanaha. The disciplined people. Dhiraha. That's the last word of the 3rd line. Dhiraha has to be equated to Yuktatmanaha. These disciplined Dhiraha, the disciplined wise people, Dhiraha is wise people, Avishanti Sarvam Eva. They enter into everything. Okay, earlier he said they enter into Brahmadana, Dhama. Now he is saying these people, Sarvam Avishanti Eva. They as if enter into everything. Okay. So in the last mantra it was said, Atma Vishate Brahmada. That Jivatma enters Brahman. So a natural question which Shankara asks, Katam Brahma Samvishata iti. How does the Jivatma enter Brahman? This confusion is because the last mantra uses the term Vishate, enters. What is the problem with entry? Entry is a karma. It's an action. And if you have to take this word enter in its literal meaning, then you are saying that moksha is a karma phalam, the karma being entry. And therefore, the Upanishad has to tell us that this is not so. And this is explained in this mantra. So Brahma Samvishataha. That is explained in this mantra. So this 5th and 6th slokas, they are beautiful mantras where the entire range of all the sadhanas which you have studied throughout Tattva Bodha, Bhagavad Gita, Upanishad, all the sadhanas are put together in one place. And they are, for better understanding, we'll rearrange them a bit. So the first one is Dhiraha, the discriminative person. Who is this person? The person who understands that Bhagavan, Ishvara alone can be the support, can be our support. And that the world is for enjoyment only, is for entertainment only. Right? You should never use it for support. It's like that cardboard chair, And when you were kids, you had this cardboard chair, very decorative. It looks absolutely like a beautiful new chair. But it is decorative. If you sit on it, it will collapse. But it's a piece for entertainment. Looks beautiful, can be placed anywhere. Similarly, this world is for decoration. Support can be only from the real chair, Ishvara. Therefore, for peace or security or my happiness, I have to turn to Ishvara or Brahman. So Ishvara is the Dharma Shastra term, the theological term. Brahman is the Vedanta term. They both mean the same. And turning towards Ishvara means turning away from the world. This is the discrimination, the vivekaha. So, first person has to be a discriminative person, vivekaha. So, dhira here means the viveki, the person who is discriminative. Then the next one is vitaragaha, vairagyam, dispassion. I need not hate the world. I need not dislike the world. So vairagyam is taken as the understanding the real value, which is a definition which we should all understand. Dispassion doesn't mean disliking something or being indifferent. Even indifference is not there. It means to understand the real value of something. That is vairagya, right? To take an example, you want to buy some shoes. You don't go to the bookshop. Why? Not because you hate the bookshop, but you know that the shoes will not be available in the bookshop. And therefore, you use the place where books are available. You know the value of the bookshop. You know that books are available there. You know the value of the shoe shop. You know that shoes are available there. You know that I cannot, buy shoes at a bookshop. You know that I have to go to the bookshop to get shoes. And that is what is called vairagya. You are trying to understand where you should go for what. When you want security, you know that security is not available in this world. And therefore you ignore the world. This is vairagyam. And then you go to Ishvara, where security is available. This is mumukshutva. So when you ignore the bookshop, that is vairagyam. Knowing that you have to go to the shoe shop to buy shoes, that is mumukshutva. Then the third one is prashantaha, mental tranquility. So here, I repeat what we said here. We cannot control the arrival of our thoughts. Many thoughts are emerge because of our very nature, the nature of the mind, the sattva, rajas, tamas composition of the mind itself generates many thoughts. I cannot control the arrival, but I need not feel guilty. I need not nourish them. I need not go along with those thoughts. I can decide to ignore those thoughts. And if that I have to do, then I should have healthy activities or distractions, if you want to call it, where my mind can be engaged. I should have thought of activities which I can do where my negative thoughts can be replaced with positive or neutral thoughts. And what is this called in Tattva Bodha? There's a word in Tattva Bodha. This kind of ability to let only positive thoughts remain. It was discussed in Tattva Bodha. What is the name? Come on, guys.
Shama.
No? Shama. What is the definition of Shama? In Tattva Bodha?
Mano Nigraha.
Mano Nigraha. Discipline of the mind. Thought discipline. That is what is being talked about here. Prashantaha. That ability to reject thoughts which are obstructive to your sadhana. That is called Prashantaha. That is called Mano Nigraha. That is called Shamaha. Unlike what many people think, it is not a thoughtless state. It is not some sort of a mental silence. It is a readiness to accept all situations and continue to focus on that which is good for you. Right? Hence the lack of disturbance. Then Yuktatmanaha is the next word. Learning to focus the mind and keeping the mind on a particular field. This arises from prashantaha. I'm able to keep my mind away from the negative thoughts, and then yuktatmanaha, I'm able to focus the mind and keep it on a particular field. In the case of, for example, this class, Upanishad class, the attention must be there, and the attention span must be extended to 1 hour and a few minutes. And there was a word used in Tattva for this. What is that? You have to be able to relate everything that is studied in Prakarana Grantha. Learning to focus. What is it called in Tattva Bodha? Chitta Ekagrata.
Samadhana.
Samadhanam. Samadhanam is called Chitta Ekagrata. You have to be able to recall. Otherwise, your assimilation is not complete. Okay. Then next one is Rishayaha. So Rishis. So Rishi is derived from the root Rishi, Rish, Janati iti Rishi, the one who knows, the one who's a knower of the self-knowledge, he is a Rishi. And therefore, the word Rishaya appearing here means that you should be engaged in Shravanam and Maranam all the time. And after that, Enam Samprapya, having attained the Atma through Jnanam, which means what? I have to train myself, I have to train my mind to think of myself as Atma, as the consciousness principle itself. Using a temporary body, this temporary body is gifted to me in accordance with the law of karma by Ishvara. But I am not that body. I am using that body temporarily for the journey of this particular life of the body. That training has to be given so that whenever I think about myself, I think of myself as the Atma. This is Nididhyasana. And Kritatmanaha, these people whose minds have been purified by all those 4 qualifications, they are Vitaragaha. Kritatmanaha means having converted. Having converted the Jivatma into the Paramatma, where this Paramatma has no karma. Na punyam, na papam, na saukhyam, na dukkham. Neither punyam, nor papam, nor happiness, nor bliss. That is the Paramatma. So this definition is given by Shankaracharya. He says, Kritatmanaha means Nishpanna Atmanaha, one who has transformed the Jivatma into the Paramatma. Nishpanna means brought about a change. And having done this, Jnana Triptaha, he has got tripti, contentment. He has got complete satisfaction because he is no longer Ahankara. We have to remember that Ahankara can never become Purnaha, can never become complete. The duties of the Ahankara can never be completed. There will always be fresh duties, and therefore I have to forgo my claim on myself as Ahankara, hand over that Ahankara to Ishvara, and claim myself as the Sakshi Chaitanya. So this claiming myself as Atma through knowledge, this is what is meant by Jnana Triptaha, the person who is content because of the knowledge. Then the phalam is given. What will happen to such people? Te sarvagam sarvataha prapya dhiraha. They merge into the all-pervading Paramatma only. Sarvagam means all-pervading. Sarvatra, totally. They merge totally into the all-pervading Paramatma. They merge, very important little word, sarvagam sarvataha. Merge totally. They don't exist in one small corner of Brahman, right? There are other darshanas like Vishishta Advaita, which says you are a jiva and you will, when you will merge into part as part of Ishvara. This is not what we are saying. They merge totally into all of Brahman. That is why sarvatra, totally they merge. They don't exist in one small part of Brahman. They are Brahman. There is no difference. And remember, to merge totally, you have to be Brahman. You have to be as infinite as Brahman, which means there is no difference between Jivatma and Paramatma. because there can be only one infinite entity. Hence, the merger has to be in the form of what? Aham Brahma Asmi. I am Brahma. That is the only way you can merge. And then he says, Sarvam Eva Avashanti. They have merged with Brahman. They themselves have become Ishvara. Avishanti. They enter the totality. When? At the time of the fall of the body. So here he is describing Videha Mukti. And he gives an example. Shankara gives an example. When a pot is broken, like the pot space, which becomes one with the total space. Right? That way. So remember that even when the pot is there, the walls of the pot, they don't displace any space. The wall needs space. The pot needs space. The pot will be there in the space. But unlike water, where your hand displaces the water, the wall of the pot does not divide the space. And therefore, there is no such division as the outer space and the space in the pot. The seeming division which we have created because we want to distinguish between the space in the pot and the space outside the pot, between the Maha Akasha and the Ghata Akasha. We are trying to make a division. This division is only a mithya division. And therefore, the word Vishanti has to be understood as having a meaning only when you refer to the Upadhi. Because whenever you say the Ghata Akasha merges with the Maha Akasha, the pot space merges with the general space, that sentence has meaning only when the pot is the frame of reference. And the Upadhi of the pot is there present in your sentence, then only that meaning is there. And therefore, this is taken as Videha Mukti. Up to Jnana Tripta, which is where Jnana Tripta, up to that Jnana Tripta, it is Jivan Mukti. After Jnana Tripta, it is Videha Mukti. Okay. Right. Any questions?
Umacharya.
Yeah.
Can you please give once give the word-to-word meaning of this particular matra?
Okay. So, Samprapya enam rashayo jnana triptaha. Enam samprapya, having attained this enam, this Brahman, rishayaha jnana triptaha. The rishis are content with the knowledge, satisfied with the knowledge. Kritatmanaha, having transformed themselves from Jivatma into Paramatma. Vitaragaha, free of attachment. Prashantaha, totally calm and tranquil. Sarvataha sarvam prapya, having totally merged with the all-pervading Brahman. Te yuktatmanaha dhiraha, those self-disciplined wise people, discriminated people, sarvam eva avishanti, enter everything. Everything here is all-pervading Brahman, which is everything.
Thank you.
Okay. No questions? Everybody is wise? All right. So we will try to finish one more mantra today. So let us look at the next mantra. This is Vedanta Vijnana Sunishchitarthaha Sannyasa Yogat Yatayaha Shuddha Sattvaha Te Brahma Lokeshu Parantakale Paramritaha Parimuchyanti Sarve. So Sannyasa Yogat, through sannyasa, using sannyasa as a means, which means through renunciation, Yatayaha Shuddha Sattvaha. These, remember Yatayaha, Yati can mean a sannyasi also. So that is what is being mentioned here. Yati is the sannyasi who is Shuddha Sattvaha, who is pure-minded, and Vedanta Vijnana Sunishchita Arthaha. Sunishchita Arthaha have clearly understood the meaning of Vedanta Vijnanam, of the subject matter of Vedanta, of the knowledge given by Vedanta. Which means what? The pure-minded sannyasis, through renunciation, they have clearly understood what is Brahman. So, Vedanta Vijnana Sunishchitarthaha has to be understood as the sannyasi has understood Brahman. Okay. Then, and not only having understood, Para Amritaha. So, Para Amritaha is, he has become one with Brahman, which means he has got Jivan Mukti. Te Sarvehe, all the sannyasis, Parimuchyanti, they completely resolve into Brahma Lokeshu, into Brahman, Parantakale, at the time of the death of the physical body. So two things are mentioned, Jivan Mukti as well as Videha Mukti, again in this mantra. So this mantra is a very popular one. And remember that this mantra is used whenever you invite a sannyasi to your place. This is a real sannyasi, okay, the one who has formally taken the robes. So whenever you invite a real sannyasi to your place for Diksha, as they call it, and we call it dinner or lunch, but for the sannyasi it is Diksha. This mantra is chanted. As the sannyasi enters your house, this mantra is chanted, very popular mantra. One of the mantras. There are other mantras chanted, this is one of them. And then you look at the words. So, Yatayaha. Second line, Yatayaha. Yatihi is people of right effort. Yati means prayatnaha, the necessary effort. And effort is in the right direction and to the right extent. So, the direction of the effort should be correct. The amount of the effort should also be correct. Then, what is that in our terms? First, Karma Yoga, Chitta Shuddhi, Upasana Yoga, Chitta Ekagrataha, Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam, Atma Jnanam. So this is the sequence which is indicated by the word Yatayaha. Those who have made the necessary effort in the right direction and obtained Atma Jnana. The sannyasi. Shuddha Sattvaha. Shuddha Sattvaha indicates Chitta Shuddhi. After Karma Yoga and Upasana Yoga, they have achieved Chitta Shuddhi after Karma Yoga and Chitta Ekagrata after Upasana Yoga. Remember, both are necessary. Chitta Shuddhi is defined as what? Reduction of Raga Dvesha. It is indicated by my readiness to accept whatever comes to me in the form of Karma Phala. I am willing to accept my future as it comes. This is Chitta Shuddhi. Upasana is a result of meditation on Saguna Ishvara, the ability to focus your mind at will. This is Chitta Ekagrataha. So Sattva here is taken to mean the mind, and Shuddha means pure. Shuddha Sattva means Chitta Shuddhi, the one with a pure mind. You have to supply with Chitta Ekagrata also. Then Sannyasa Yoga, due to renunciation. So the Grihastha has several aspects to his life. One is possessions. One are the duties arising out of his own, position. Then the third one is relationships. And the fourth one, transactions arising out of possessions, duties, and relationships. So these four: possessions, duties, relationships, transactions. This provides the infrastructure for karma. So karma requires these four as the infrastructure. These four create a preoccupation in the mind. Wherever there is karma, these four will be there. And wherever these four are there, the mind is preoccupied. And therefore, as you go towards Jnana Yoga, towards moksha, necessity is to reduce possessions, reduce duties, reduce the hold of relationships, and reduce number of transactions. This is called Sannyasa Yoga. Not going to the forest and wearing saffron. That is not Sannyasa Yoga. This reduction in these four aspects of karma, that is called Sannyasa Yoga. And then Vedanta Vijnana Sunishtarthaha. So Vedanta Janita Vijnanam, the knowledge born out of Vedanta is called Vedanta Vijnanam. And what knowledge is that? About Brahma Jnana, about Atma Jnana. And therefore, Shankara says the object of that Vedanta Vijnana, the object of that knowledge is Paramatma. And that knowledge should have been clearly ascertained by you as what Aham Brahma Asmi. So this clearly ascertaining this knowledge born out of Vedantic study, culminating in the fact that I am Brahman, that is called Sunishchita Artha. Very important word. It implies that there has been vichara, there has been enquiry, and the doubts have been removed on the completion of the enquiry. And then what happens? If you have done all this properly, under the guidance of a proper teacher, te Brahma Lokeshu Parantakale. They enjoy Jivan Mukti. A Jivan Mukta has the ability to drop the Ahankara when he wants and recall his higher nature as Brahman. This is the difference between a Jivan Mukta and an Ajnani. The Ajnani is forever caught up in the Ahankara. The Jivan Mukta chooses when to drop the Ahankara, and he can drop it at will. Right? It is like watching a movie, a very interesting movie in which you are involved, but you have the capacity to know that's a movie and come back to ourselves whenever we want. Right? Even with the most disturbing scene in the movie, we can come back to ourselves and be free of the disturbance. So this is the portion about Jivan Mukti. And having enjoyed that Jivan Mukti, he says Parantakale. Parantakale. Antakala means the death of a jiva. And the adjective para here, Parantakale, is to indicate the final death of a jiva. Meaning that jiva's body will not be born again. That jiva will not be born again. There is no more rebirth, and hence it is final death. All those Jivan Muktas, where do they go? Brahma Lokeshu. So here Loka is not a place, because here Brahman is not Hiranyagarbha. Brahman here is Nirguna Brahman. Therefore it cannot be a place, because there is no place, no Loka associated with Nirguna Brahman. And therefore the only meaning you can take is Swarupa. And thus Brahma Loka has to be understood as Brahma Chaitanya Swarupa, the true nature of Brahman as consciousness itself. And Paramritaha Parimuchanti Sarve. The immortal Brahman, he Parimuchanti, he merges with. Okay. So Amrita is immortal. Why does he add the word Para? Para is a pronoun meaning superior. So Paramritaha, Shankara clarifies that there are two types of immortality, Amritaha. The Devas are all the gods, all the occupants of Devaloka, of Swarga. They are Amritaha. They are relatively immortal because they will die when the world is resolved. But Brahman is Paramritaha. Brahman continues even when the universe is gone. And therefore Paramritaha, that Brahman, Parimuchanti Sarve, they all get merged, they all get liberated, they all get moksha. So with this, we'll stop for today. Okay. Any questions?
Acharya, this was an interesting explanation of the word Paramritaha.
Because remember that whenever you say immortal, there is always relative immortality and absolute immortality. Atyantama Amrita. That is Brahma.
Right. So there are divine beings who have a relatively
Yeah. For example, Hiranyagarbha himself.
right.
What is his life? His life is begins with the Jagat and ends with the Jagat. Similarly, Vishwarupa Ishvara are also the same. Similarly, Lord Yama.
And usually when people think of this Amritaha, immortality, it is in this terms.
It is in
these
this term.
terms.
It is in a relative term only, which is what Mundaka is saying. Don't think of that. That it may be a very long period, but it is still mortal only.
And that's what the siddhis that one achieves through, certain practices and all that basically takes you towards some things like this,
Yeah. You will have a long life.
but it's finite.
Yeah, it's finite.
Right.
It's finite in the longer term.
Right.
It is infinite as far as we are concerned.
From an
Relatively
absolute
infinite.
level.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. But not completely infinite.
Acharya, I have another question, but I'm not able to articulate it so well. I'll try, but it's the concept of moksha itself,
Yeah.
which is then from the point of view of Agnani, I guess, a Gnani, not Agnani, but from the point of view of a Gnani, then
Mhm.
it is sort of it's kind of a paradox.
Actually, the concept of moksha is irrelevant from the Paramarthika angle. It is only relevant in the Vyavaharika angle. That is why all teaching takes place in Vyavaharika.
And then what?
The point is the whole thing is unnecessary. Because
Well, it's necessary for
yeah, so your sadhana ends when you realize that you have wasted your time in the sadhana.
but was it wasted? Again, if
You are
we-
always Brahman.
yeah.
Nothing has changed. You were Brahman before, you are Brahman now. What has changed is the mind of the Jiva, which anyway is temporary.
I know. So that's I'm not able to articulate the question properly. So do you understand where I am sort of
Yes.
conflicted in my head?
The point is you need to do the sadhana until you no longer need to do it.
So it's basically a place, they say ignorance is bliss. So there is that kind of happiness because of ignorance, which is actually not really happiness.
It is
because
not
it
really
comes
happiness.
it comes with a lot of sorrow also. And then
Yeah.
there is that state because of having gone through the process and then knowing it and then seeing things for the way they are. So there's a difference then in the two.
But you have to remember that the mind which sees that you are Brahman, that mind is also an Atma.
Yes.
You see, so basically this concept of moksha exists only in Vyavaharika, in the relative transactional world.
Otherwise, there is nothing.
There is nothing. From the Paramarthika angle, there is no creation itself.
Right.
So where is the question of the creator? The moment you have brought in creation and creator, you are in Vyavaharika. You are in the relative transactional world. And you as such, the you being the Jivatma can never get beyond that world. And you Brahman, you don't need to get beyond the world. You are already beyond it.
Yeah. So why the question is right now, it's anyway been there for a while, you know that. And
Yeah.
second is this mantra right here, which says that, the Gnani then merges with everything and Sarvagatam and
He doesn't merge at all because he's already there.
Yeah.
So there is no question of any merger. That is the beauty of this thing. Ultimately, you have to do nothing.
But that is out of knowledge then.
Out of knowledge. Out of knowledge.
So then it's not paradoxical.
Once you get the knowledge, you can drop everything.
Right.
Until you get the knowledge, you have to continue to do. Otherwise, you will get caught into samsara.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, it's easy to say. It's takes a lot even to intellectually assimilate this concept.
Yeah.
And then to really assimilate it. Okay, so with this we'll stop for today. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you so much, Acharya.